Okay, Adam, I'm going to go through your questions one at a time. I am going to skip question 1 for the moment and do that last just so I can stay in a line and do this as quickly as possible. Question number 2 is, how stable is it? This is me moving the entire layout via the viaduct. Translation, yes, it's very stable. Same thing for this section. It's very stable. It's not going anywhere. Each riser has 2 screws in the bottom, 2 screws in the top. The weakest section is going to be over here because it's only 3 feet long. However, it is still significantly stable enough to move the entire layout. Your third question was going to be about clearances. So the double track goes through here. I'll show you in just a second what this looks like. However, on the right side, I got 6 3/4 to the bottom, 7 3/8 to the top. On the far side, I've got 7 3/16, and then 8 or 7 3/4 minus, which is perfect. The peak point is going to be here, which is 11.5 from the bottom, but with the 3.5 inch, it runs right at 8 inches. So don't forget about this 3.5 inch space plus the 1/2 inch plywood. That makes all the measurements a little wonky up top from what they are on your drawings. Now, what I was going to do is I was going to show you over here on the drawing. These are the full-scale prints that I used to build your layout. So the riser on the one side is sitting right here. That's why it's got the weird angles. I want to make sure you had plenty of clearance from the track. And then the second riser is right over here, again, far and out of the way. And then so on and so forth. What I did is I actually installed all of that upper section with this paper template in place, which obviously I'm going to mail to you as well. This is the other end, which I'll do the measurements in just a second. But here's the placement of the first riser, the second riser. I made sure I squared it up on either side so the track would miss it and you have clearance to get it through. And then the third one is kind of a weird spot because there's a track fairly close and everything's intersecting right at this point. So I did push it off to the side just a little bit, but like I said, it's plenty strong. Now going over to the far side, measurements on this side is going to be 4, 4.5, 4 5/8, and then 5. And it just gets taller from there. So it looks pretty good. Your fourth question was going to be the rigidity. It's pretty darn stable. So I actually do have this unlocked right now though, so give it one tap and the whole thing comes away. You've got your hinges on one side, and then I've got alignment pins on the other side. That's going to keep this side very rigid as far as twisting. On the other side, I've got this, which is a piece of hard maple. It is not glued in. It is simply tapped in, so if you do ever have to remove it, you can. And then it goes into the groove on the side right here. So once you push it all together, everything lines up just the way it should be. So there should be no rocking left or right. If anything, you're going to get some misalignment from the up and down, say if the legs get kicked or something like that. Otherwise, it's very stable. The next question was going to be clearances for modules 4, 5. Over here between 4 and 5, I've got 3 7/16. There is a splice block here. However, I did make sure that there was adequate clearance for the train. The reason there's a splice block there is because I ran out of plywood. It was either splice in this one little corner or do an entire another sheet of plywood, and just for the sakes of not spending and wasting a lot of plywood, I decided to do this. This also gives you the option of removing this little triangular section So you can add scenery through this area if you would like. It is not glued in place, however, it is plenty well screwed. It's not going anywhere. On the far side of this open area, I've got 3.5 on the one side and 3.5 on the other. This whole area is actually 2 inches off the base, so it's fairly consistent all the way through. Actually all the way through to here, which is module 3, which again is 3.5 inches for the clearance. My apologies for my shaky camera skills. Between modules 2 and 3 here, you've got this small, what I almost want to call a triangular section. It's supported by a riser here and here, and then this far side actually has a screw block, which I'll have some alignment pins for you, and you'll just screw it together and it'll be plenty well secure. Everything else seems to be pretty well set. The last area you were asking about, which was actually question number 1 on your list, was this area here and the amount of clearance you've got. To the bottom of the dock area, you've got 5.5. To the water level, that's 6, 1/2 inch sheet of plywood. And then obviously we're set at 9.25 for the very top. I apologize if this is a little dark. I'll try over here for you. And it's just as dark. My apologies. Try one more time. But otherwise, it's pretty well set. I did go ahead and use curved plywood for either side of the dock, so it is completely flush on both sides. And then there's 2 triangular blocks up in the corner. Those are removable if you need to. So I believe that answers all your questions. And I'll do a slow pan here just so you can see everything. So that's what it's going to look like. That's what that looks like. And then I'll pan around here real quick. And there you go. And I'm going to go ahead and exit.